Well, hello there trainers, greetings, KuroBlitz here and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to, talk about my own issues that I have with the region of Paldea in terms of geographically, historically, etc, etc. Because this is going to be a very short video. I just want to, talk about my own opinions on the matter, and I know that, those may be a little, I just don't know how to even sit myself, and the camera need to get a new one, but that's besides the point. When it comes to the Paldea region, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet turns 1 year today on November 18, 2023. I'm recording this a priori, of course. I'm not the biggest fan of the Paldea region, and I'm from Portugal, right? I always knew that if Game Freak or Nintendo or whoever was gonna make a region based on my home country, that it was not gonna be my home country, it was gonna be agglomerated with Spain, and maybe the culture would get mingled or simply not addressed, and that's kind of what happened. Just for you guys to get an idea, the only things that are Portugal in the Paldea region is Alfornada, Montnavera, Cascarafa, that's about it. Like Lake Caçaroga, it's not even that. Medali, it's like the frontier between Portugal and Spain. I kind of like that the league, the Paldea League is interesting because the Paldea League is in a city called Olivença, which is a territory being disputed between Spain and Portugal since time immemorial. So I do appreciate that attention to detail. Now, when it comes to Paldea as a region, I was never a fan of it. Because when it comes to region design, I like a progression of, like having routes, having to do whatever more, like, like a linear stuff. Pokemon being open world was never the best approach to begin with. I feel like they should have continued with an open zone format that Legends Arceus approached, and it's very reminiscent of Monster Hunter as well. Now, when it comes to Paldea, even the names don't feel organic. Like, what kind of place is called East Province Area 2 or South Province Area 6? Those names don't really fly by. Kitakami did well with the barren lands and the Timeless Woods and Mosui Town and Oni Mountain and whatever more, right? And even the springs and whatever. But that kind of brings another issue. That's because Paldea is being discarded in their own generation by the people who make the generation. Like, for example, Paldea was introduced, and the DLC it's in Kitakami, which may or may not be in the surroundings of Sinjo, and Blueberry, it's an academy in Unova. So Paldea it's being discarded in their own game to have this sequelized plot, and realistically this wasn't done until like what, Kalos? Because Kalos only had 1 year with X and Y, then we had 2 years of Owen with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. They continue the plot of Mega Evolution, so they continue the lore, but they don't continue the plot of Kalos because we never returned to it. It kind of makes me wonder that the Paldea region, it feels like a filler region. Like even the anime, like in Pokemon Horizons we were 6 episodes in Kanto, 8 in Paldea, and we're going to be 14 in Galar. I don't know if this is damage control for what Journeys didn't do or approach, but I don't think so, because we only met Cabo, we don't met other gym leaders. If we had an arc of meeting other gym leaders, I would have been fine. If we had a training arc in the Isle of Armor, or even meeting Peony to learn more about Lucius, that would have sufficed, but that's not the case. Like, I feel like this Galar plot is just being stretched to align with the DLC Wave 2, so that they have a reason to go to Unova because Great Britain colonized New York. Like, I don't even know, man. But I don't like the region. Like, it just feels, because when you do an open world, right? When you do an open world, it's very clear that, you can go on your own merry way and you don't need to return. And because you don't need to return and backtrack, there is no side quests. I feel more life and passion in Jubilife Village than I feel for the entirety of the Paldea region. I like the Runas Quartet. Those are incredible. Like, because no one really tells them about it, so gathering the stakes, it's kind of like the Reggie stuff to me. So I really appreciate that. When it comes to the Paradox Pokemon, it's cool, but that kind of brings another issue. The region as a whole is heavily carried by the Great Crater and Area Zero. People like the Area Zero, They don't like the region per se, because you explore, it's buggy, and yes, like even Generation 1 was buggy, but that was on a Game Boy, and it was Generation 1. We are in Generation 9. We should not have these technical difficulties at this point. But that kind of goes with, the whole Pokemon cycle and the way they make games and whatever. But yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of Paldea. I always knew that they shouldn't tackle my home country. Like, even when I was doing a reaction, like, year and a half ago, like something around those lines, right, on Pokemon Day of 2022, I knew that this was gonna be messed up. Like, it's not even just the fact of, oh, it's favoritism. Like, of course it's favoritism, but the region itself, it's not really good to look at. Like, they make these buildings for the gyms, and they make them super tall, but we go outside, so what's the point of having a multi-layered floor gym building? That's kind of stupid. And I understand that because we are going more around the open world, that we are not going to be indoors all the time, but that's also another issue, because we are not going to be indoors all the time. Every building feels like it feels like window dressing, right? Because you cannot enter them, the shops are menus, and because you cannot enter them, you cannot talk with NPCs, and because you cannot talk with NPCs, it means that you don't have lore or tidbits of dialogue to embellish the region. There is really nothing like that. I feel like, like, for example, as much as I'm not a fan of, Sword and Shield, I at least can commit to the idea that, they had a route system besides the wild area, and they had two more wild areas in the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, and every place had names, like the Dusty Bowl, the Watchtower Ruins, the Bellemere Lake, the Forest of Focus, right? They had names, they had landmarks. In Paldea, it feels like everything is a landmark at the same time, and because everything is a landmark, nothing is. Those watchtowers don't really do anything. The geography is all messed up because you have a desert, a lake, a mountain. Like, what kind of... And then, and even the landmarks that you are aware of, you don't call them by the landmarks, you call them by, like, for example, the Rocky Cliff of Bombardier, the Stony Cliff of Clough, the Grafii Forest that we saw in the trailer. No one calls it Tech Tree Thicket because it's an even stupid name to begin with. But yeah, like, even the Blight Ruins or whatever, like, I feel like those are very underutilized. And the lighthouses, we have 4 lighthouses, but even the names of the team star bases, people don't call them by the team bases or, by the squad. They just, like, they don't call Ortega's base as the Rockshba base, or they don't call it the Seguin squad base, which is Giacomo. They don't call it that, they just call it the Giacomo place, right? The dark base. I do like that, they are the stars of the Cassiopeia constellation, Cassiopeia, whatever. But yeah, it just feels bland. And I really hope that Pokemon doesn't do this ever again. Like, in terms of making a generation that feels like filler and discarding it like 3 to 6 months after, because people want DLC the moment it's announced, right? People want stuff the moment that they know that it exists, right? And that's it. I don't even know what they can do, because I feel like we're going to, just like, it just feels like a filler generation. And I don't know if someone from Portugal or from Spain, it feels like, this is the way it is. And like, even the folklore, and I get it. In Kalos we had Norse mythology, and in Unova we had, European mythology, and etc, etc, and I do get that, but like, we don't even tackle our own mythology. They just decided to make, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, we got Chinese legendaries, but not really Chinese, because Game Freak and TPCI and Nintendo, I'm pretty sure that they should never tackle China, India, or any Africa-based country, not out of malice or whatever you guys may be thinking. I just feel like the Japanese people would not make those regions justice because of, historical and prejudice and whatever more. I feel like the more that they don't tackle Africa, China, or India, the better. I don't feel like those places, those countries would be done justice by Game Freak. I feel like they should continue to do like I wanted for this generation to be Alaska because because we got we got Hisui, which was, Sino, it was Hokkaido, but when it was Russian, not Japanese. So I wanted for this to be, Alaska. Alaska would have been cool, and with the Unova remakes hints, it would actually made more sense, right? But yeah, I would have even bought the idea of, for example, hey, you have a Greek islands game in the Mediterranean, kind of like Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. One DLC you go to Italy, and in the other DLC you go to Egypt. So you basically have three regions in one game because it feels like that's what they are trying to do. I don't know how they are going to tackle it. I feel like they should the Shikoku Island of Japan, going back to Gen 10 and making the Shikoku Island, which is the rest of Cyanwood in terms of geographical, it would have been cool, but that's already being used for the Tumble Cube 1 and Pokemon Quest. I don't know how they are going to address it. Maybe they revamp a Ranger region, or maybe they, because it's not from Game Freak, so if they get the rights to it, they would revamp a Ranger region, or they could make the Ore region, they could expand upon Arizona, and instead of being, instead of being a Genius Sonority or Spike Chunsoft, right, they could do something else. Like visit an old region from a spin-off and make it mainline. I feel like that's possible. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I don't like Paldea. I never did. Even like Alola just feels like you are eating dialogue out of the blue. And Galar, I still have problems with the Dexit. I still have problems with the Dexit. And I feel like this should not be the case because it feels like Pokemon is trying to copy other franchises. With Alola, they try to copy the Yokai Watch, very evident by the anime. And with Galar, it feels like they, in terms of limiting your Pokedex and using the idea of, we can make more money by limiting the Pokemon that you can have by putting them in home, and that way you have to pay to have your Mons. It feels very scammy. Like limiting your monster roster, that's only done with Digimon, but that's because Digimon's plot, you are tamers, you only have 3 Digimon at best. It's more story driven, and you can only access like 200 out of 1400 existing Digimon or something. So I feel like you really wanted to do a limited dex game. The Legends Arceus approach would be the best way possible. Heck, even Let's Go did it, and I love Let's Go. I would have wanted for BDSP to look like Let's Go and have the co-op system of Let's Go, because if you want to be a faithful remake, make that be the case so that the old generation teaches the new generation and you can do stuff together. Battle Tower, Safari Zone of the Great Marsh, contests, the super contests, the underground hideaways. God damn it, my fingers. Like, I feel like if they had the co-op system of Let's Go and the art style of Let's Go, BDSP would have been a digestible game. Yes, you don't have platinum content, but at least you have something new and a new approach. Maybe they could have done a retelling like how Let's Go did, where the player characters that we played as are not the heroes this time. They already went to their story. We are now feeling on their shoes. It would have been super cool if, for example, you played as Verity or Sorrel from the I Choose You movie. Your rival would be Cross, but during the events of the game, you would meet Dawn, Lucas, and Barry, and when you approach the league, you battle Cross instead of battling Cynthia. It would be a cool twist of, oh, Cynthia is not the champion. You could have battled Cynthia in the post-game. That could have worked. But these are just, my thoughts on the matter. I feel like, I don't even know. Like, I just hate Paldea. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching this video. KuroBlitz out, and have an amazing journey, trainers.